Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers at the voice of college football. We hope you're having a great Labor Day. We've got a great show here for you tonight. I'm here with my fantastic co-host, as always, Gabriel Pickup. And with us today is our other co-host, Donovan Gibbs, who plays for Long Island University and this past Saturday competed against the Florida Gators. We're going to hear about that. So on today's show, we're going to start, as always, with the pick updates. We're going to talk to Donovan about LIU and the game against Florida, and then we're going to preview Miami coming up this Saturday. So, Gabe, why don't you start us off?
Yes, sir. I only really have one pickup date, and it's a sad one because we actually had him on the show not too long ago. Very nice guy. Tavion Branch has decommitted from Rutgers University. He's 3.5 star depending on the site. Number 1 defensive tackle in Pennsylvania. So he's just doing it to keep options open. Originally committed in June. I'm hoping he recommits later. There's still a lot of time. I don't want to sound like a condescending old head, but yeah, he's a great young man, and I hope that he still chooses us.
Yeah, Tavion was a great guy. It was a great interview, and we wish him the best of luck. Hope he becomes a Scarlet Knight, but whatever he chooses, best of luck to you, Tavion, and in your future.
I will say best of luck to him, and I completely understand why he would do that, knowing that he's coming into, I think this is his senior season. So it makes 100%. It makes a lot of sense why he would want to reopen everything because going into your junior year, especially as a recruit in football, that's the year where you put out a lot of your tape, and then senior years when you really want to make your decision. And a lot of players decide maybe junior is the right time to commit to a school, but that extra year brings a lot of extra opportunities. And from what I did my research on in regards to Branch, he was still being looked at by Penn State. There was interest by a lot of SEC schools, Oklahoma, Florida as well. And now with him decommitting, those teams are back in the running.
Yeah.
And they've been rumored about how they still have that high interest in Branch, and both of these teams would be just the rich getting richer. There is a chance still for Rutgers due to what Branch posted on his X account, saying that there were no bridges burnt between Branch and the coaching staff. So that does leave an out of Branch if he does want to recommit after the season, and he goes back to thinking maybe it was better where I was at currently, seeing all the other potential opportunities. But if he ends up staying, is a great thing. And Rutgers just right now have an uphill battle because outside of Branch and Wadi Collier, who reclassed to 2025, the rest of their class and just the people that they've targeted on the defensive end and just in general, just on the D line, a lot of them have chosen different paths. Tyson Haley, the 4-star edge, committed to Penn State. The defensive tackle Preston Carey, another 4-star from New York, from St. Anne's to be exact, he ended up committing to Georgia in late June. So my general question is right now, especially for the both of you, is does Tavion Branch's decommitting influence anything with Donovan Jackson as well?
So focusing on Tavion Branch for a split second, and then I'll definitely get to that question. First off, I wanted to say that, Jason, I understand where you're coming from with that, but when we had Tavion on the show, he was talking, well, first off, we asked him what was the selling point for Rutgers, and he said he was really between Rutgers and Oklahoma, and Penn State had already offered him a scholarship and everything, a deal, NIL, whatever have you. And he said the difference was that Rutgers was selling him as the sort of leader from day one and like really channeling in on him as a recruit instead of just being part of a system. They were saying, you can be a system, sort of similar to how Air portrayed the Michael Jordan recruit from Nike. Like he was really saying like that's how Rutgers was viewing him, was like, you can be one of the future leaders of this team. And he said Oklahoma was a close second, but that's why he chose Rutgers. So I'm just bringing my point back out there that Tavion, if you want to join Rutgers, that is still an opportunity. You can still be not only a part of this team, but a leader of the team moving forward. And as for the recruiting, I don't think it affects it too much because he said that he, has talked to Wadiq, he's talked to DT, he's talked to, Jordan Walker, and that's, nice, but like he hasn't really branched out too much to the other guys, it seems like, at least in his class, that have sort of swayed Rutgers in the defensive end. I am excited, at least offensively, for Xavier Stearns to come in, though, because, outside of, AJ Surris, we don't really have any other backup quarterback this year. And then next year, so far, it's just AJ Surris. So I'm excited to see moving forward how the quarterback class looks.
Yeah, and Donovan, you said Donovan Jackson, right? Was that who you mentioned?
Yeah, it's the 3-star D tackle.
Yeah, so I guess I would say it depends on the relationship that they have. If I don't know how close their relationship is, but if they do have a close relationship, sure, it could absolutely influence it. I do think, on the other hand, that these players are going to make their own individual decisions on where they think the program is a best fit for them. So maybe it could, and that's unfortunate. But we just got to keep moving forward and hope that there's going to be other recruits, and maybe Tavion will decide to stay at Rutgers. So we'll see.
And that's sort of the point I had about Tavion possibly staying too, because when Jared Smith had his choices down to, I believe it was Georgia, Georgia Tech, Auburn, and Rutgers, everyone was saying Rutgers doesn't belong in that. They're not going to get Jared Smith. I was saying the fact that Rutgers is still in the race is a good thing, because he's considered that we don't have as many wins recently. We're not as talented. He's considered all of that. And clearly that wasn't a decision difference, or I guess a factor for him. And I sort of think that's the same thing for Tavion. People were saying on Instagram and X, like, oh, he saw the defense allow 31 points to Ohio, and the next day said, F this, I'm out. I think that he knows that the Rutgers defense, though it should improve this year, is still a work in progress. And I believe that part of the reason he originally committed is because he wanted to be the change.
Yeah. Good points, guys. So, Gabe, any more updates before I move on to the next segment?
That's it for this week. Hopefully, if I have any more next week, they're all positive.
All right. So we're going to move on to our second segment next to talk about the LIU game against Florida on Saturday, where Donovan was competing. Before we do that, we're going to show you a short video from the head of Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
All right. Thank you, Mark Rogers. So let's move on to our second segment. As college football fans, every Saturday is just a great day in the fall. And we get to watch great college football teams from afar as fans. It's rare that you get an opportunity to talk to somebody who was actually on the field and can give you an inside perspective on a particular team. And that's what Donovan Gibbs is going to do for us. He plays at Long Island University. This Saturday, they traveled to Florida to play the Gators in Gainesville. So without further ado, Donovan, what's your take? How good is Florida? What was your experience like? What are your thoughts?
Before I get into the game, I will say that traveling down there and just walking through the stadium on Friday, which was the first thing we did once we got off the flight, it felt amazing. Being in the stadium, being able to just tour the facility a little bit, seeing where we were going to be, seeing just how all the empty seats were, and just visualizing how full they were going to get in 24 hours later for Saturday's game. seeing that ESPN is going to be covering the game, another game where we get to play on ESPN, was just a blessing because a lot of, especially FCS schools at that, they don't really get, I would say, ESPN coverage. Most of the time, whenever those games are streamed on ESPN Plus, they're streamed through their conference's streaming service. So being able to have a direct ESPN broadcast game, which would be my fourth in my 4 seasons here, it just shows a lot just how the program is building just in general for the Long Island University Sharks, and what our head coach Ron Cooper has been able to set down as a foundation over these last 3 to 4 years, and just getting us recognized, because we have players that can play at all sorts of levels, as we just talked about in regards to just Rutgers, Eric O'Neill, who transferred from Long Island University to James Madison, then to James Madison to Rutgers, Devon Wells, who was a player who was one of my favorite teammates when he was here, and he ended up playing at ULM last season. Another Avion Smith-Mag, who currently plays for Sam Houston State as one of their starting receivers. We produce talent at this level, at this program. So it was good to be able to not only give us another chance of exposure to the bright lights, and just for first time a lot of these players getting to experience the SEC environment. I was seeing how it was throughout the entire week, rather how they viewed us on social media, doing a comparison of our team photos together, comparing the talent that we have on this team compared to the talent on their team. Fans of theirs trying to say DJ shouldn't start, Caleb shouldn't start, Jaden Ball shouldn't start. And just being able to get to the stadium, running through the tunnel right before the game started, hearing the boos, because I'm a huge wrestling guy. So I always portray myself as a heel. And the one thing about being a heel, boos mean cheers. So it felt great to go in there getting booed, telling them to raise the boos and all of that. Seeing a lot of former friends that played at my school who pulled up to the game, and just being able to see all just the entire atmosphere, whether it's how they intro the Florida players walking through the tunnel, seeing the players touch the gator on the jumbotron out there after touchdown, seeing the fireworks, the fourth quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, where they played their I think their fight song, and then they played "Don't Back Down" by Tom Petty. The crowd noise on the first drive, it felt like everything like college players, things that people like me, or just in general a lot of athletes see growing up on their TV, watching with their families. For me, it was some Saturday night 8 p.m. games on CBS on SEC. Yes, I am that old. So seeing all that just in person, and just being able to just see the crowd playing against a lot of, just in general, preparing against a lot of players that are going to be draft picks either this year or years down the line. I know DJ Lagway is going to be a potential top 15 pick when it's all said and done around 2027, 2028. So it felt amazing. It felt like something that you would experience out of like an NCAA Road to Glory. And just playing against them, I would say Florida's offense looked nice. Watching them go down the field on a lot of their drives, they do have a good running game with Jaden Ball. DJ Lagway did show some promise. He did have a really efficient game against us, and in general, I will say their defense did hold up. Their defense is fast, but it's the SEC. That's the type of speed that all these teams play with, and just the only thing that we've been looking at on tape, just especially just like yesterday and the day before, it's just Florida is going to have some issues in regards to their run game. We just watched the tape earlier this morning, and just there was a lot of plays where we had triple option set up. The dive looked like it was going to. The dive looked very effective, and teams that do run option schemes, whether it's like a Texas A&M, South Carolina with Lenore Sellers, LSU, and their power read scheme that they run at their school, Texas with how they have their two-back system, Alabama, Georgia, who are known for running the football. They in that mid front that they do run, they're going to have issues with the dive on inside zone. And I will say, in just regards to certain formations, they're going to have a lot of trouble with unbalance this year, like they did last year. Because playing against them, we were game planning to use unbalance for a lot of sections of the game. Whether it's having all of our tight ends on one side of the field, whether it's us doing two tight end, just in general, we were planning to use a lot of just two tight end sets because they bring in an extra player that's a nickel basically, but he isn't really a nickel.
Yeah.
But he's in that nickel position. So seeing how they react to a lot of those formations and just how they react to a lot of just emotion in general and just what type of players they want to have playing the run or leaving the box and playing the pass, those are things that SEC teams will be able to pick up on. And that's why after I saw an article on this today, I just like after the win against us, Coach Napier said there is a lot to clean up. And I 100% agree with him on that.
Yeah, it's funny. You wouldn't expect that, from a major win. But two things come to mind. First off, you said you liked being the heel. Do you think those were the loudest boos that you've ever heard, at least directed towards you and your team?
100%. And we played at we played at Baylor 2 years ago. We played at TCU last year, and both of those did not compare to what we experienced in Florida throughout. Yeah. How all the sororities and fraternities were in on it, making fun of trash talking us before the game, all the head games that they were doing with their fans on social media. The SEC is a very passionate conference, and it feels like the closest thing to what NFL fans are in college football.
Yeah, makes sense. And also, firsthand experience. What do you think? Also, because like watching tape from week one, what do you think is the difference from a team like Florida and a team like Rutgers in terms of not just how they play, but why are they dominant?
Everything. I would say because not just the people that they pick up, because you can get talent all over the U.S. We've seen it countless times with countless teams. Just for example, I would say like not even just last year, 2 years ago, with how the University of Washington was set up with Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, their offensive line, which was highly touted as well. Florida has not only just a really great pipeline, they're in one of the best football states in general in the country. They also have a really strong culture, and they feel confident in DJ Lagway more and more, and the team builds around it. And just the stars that they have on defense now, it doesn't really feel like a hindrance. Last year, they had big Desmond Watson, 421 in the A gap. They couldn't really do that much with him on the defensive side of things in regards to certain schemes, certain stemming of the D line to create different sort of gap filling opportunities for the linebackers because he was just so big and he's slow laterally. Now they replaced that with Caleb Banks, Jamari Lyons, who's coming back for his first year since his injury in 2024. Tyreek Sapp, seeing him playing against him, you can see why he's Warren Sapp's child, and he has a very high motor. And just in general, their pass rush and just their front sevens is what very, very much differentiates a Big Ten team and the SEC team. The speed that they play with on the defensive side, the way that their corners and overall their secondary, especially their safeties, are able to fit the run really fast and just turn a potential 14-yard play into a 5-yard play at best. That type of speed and that type of just processing is not only just taught but coached at an extremely high level. Billy Napier is getting the best out of his guys. Not saying that Greg Schiano isn't doing that as well. He does have a really good defense that's on paper. It just needs to formulate a little bit more after what I saw with Ohio, but I have more notes on that later. Yeah. But I would say overall what differentiates these two conferences and just these two teams is just the culture, the way that everybody, even the fans are extremely committed. It's not just people who go to the school. It's people that live near the school or just are in the area of the school, people that never went to college that I saw in there that are UF fans. You don't really see that in areas in regarding to just Rutgers or let's say Penn State or let's say as well schools, mid-tier schools in the Big Ten like Iowa or Minnesota and Maryland and stuff like that. So I would say that's really what differentiates it for me.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Florida, I actually interviewed for a job at the University of Florida a few years ago and got to go to the stadium. And outside the stadium, there's a plaque. It is called The Promise. And if anybody remembers Tim Tebow and The Promise, it was a little speech he gave after they lost to Ole Miss, I don't know how many years ago, in which he really showed the commitment that he had to the team, and the Gators went on to win the national title. So, Donovan, one thing I would ask you is, when we talk about Florida, what did you see on the field in terms of the talent disparity? Were you guys like incredibly impressed, or you were like, these guys might be a little bit better, but we can still compete with them? What was your impression?
I will say that because for the most part, despite what the scoreboard tells you, watching the tape and just being on the field, it felt like for the most part we beat ourselves more than they beat us. A lot of their points came off of offensive turnovers. A lot of our drives were stopped, or a lot of our drives stalled out because we ended up getting off schedule due to pre-snap penalties. A lot of third downs that they could have gotten off the field, or a lot of their chunk plays pretty much happened after defensive penalties after a pass play, whether it's a defensive holding or a defensive pass interference or a face mask that happened on one of their runs earlier in the game. Because for the most part, that first drive up until that fumble, we were moving the ball.
Yeah,
we started off. Our first play was a 6-yard gain. Second play, another 5-yard gain. Those things build up over time as long as you don't beat yourself. And the next drive after that, we were able to get another 4-yard gain. And then we ended up getting a penalty that brought us back 5 yards. So it's just, you got to be able to stay on schedule with these teams because they're the same as us. The only thing that's different is just they lived in a different area and they got a different logo on their helmet.
Yeah, I mean, those things they're frustrating, but it's also optimistic frustration because you can change those. One bold take I have is that this year, at least, Ethan will have the better year than DJ Lagway. I don't know about the rest of the team, but I think Ethan will have the better year.
No.
Did you see this game?
No.
I
can see how Florida's offense compared to like Rutgers' offense. I can see it due to just how Ethan's going to be playing a much bigger role in this offense this year, as they're really going to be more focused on the pass. Not saying that the running game isn't there. It's starting to get effective. They do have two good running backs with true sophomore Aiden I have his name right here.
Antoine?
Yeah, Antoine Raymond, and there's FAU transfer senior CJ Campbell Jr. They got two really good running backs there, but Florida is going to be more reliant, I would say, on Jaden Ball, because Jaden Ball definitely showed out against us. He was the speed and power that he had is very impressive, and I really see that taking a lot of advantage and taking a lot of the pressure off of DJ Lagway, because we've seen time and time again, especially against SEC competition, that if DJ throws the ball a lot, certain situations, he'll put you in really good situations, but when it gets bad, it gets bad. I truly remember last year's game against Tennessee that he came in the middle of the game after his really good first start against Sanford a week before, and then the rest of the season at that, which he did have some hot streaks. He did look good against Ole Miss, but I will say having that running game helps them out 10 times more, and I can truly believe with just what Rutgers has with their three-headed monster at wide receiver.
Yeah, big three.
Ethan is going to take full-on advantage of that, especially against the schedule that they're playing against.
I mean, to be fair, like we were saying all off-season, Jason, I know you're in the chat, you included, and it's only been one game, that our running game was still going to be our identity. And we do have two solid running backs, 2.5, because, Benjamin in limited snaps still got 17 yards on 3 carries. But Ethan really, that was probably his best, most efficient game, at least, as a Scarlet Knight, especially when you're against a team like Ohio, who many people coming into the night were like, what's special about Ohio. They still won their conference.
Ohio's a really good team.
Yeah, you can't control your schedule. Like, they did what they could with their schedule. They won 7 in a row to end the year, and it was close. We only had 3 points in the second half, but that's because I believe we were time managing instead of trying to win and not lose.
All right.
So I think Ethan will have a great year.
Yeah. So we love Ethan Kaliakmanis. Yeah, he had one of the best games of his career, no question. And I think he is going to have a great year. However, I would be a bit cautious about saying he's going to have a better year than DJ Lagway.
I think DJ Lagway, you know what I saw against LIU? I saw nothing special.
Because he hasn't played very much. He was injured. But
he did, yeah.
But, Gabe, maybe you're right. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think Ethan's a very different kind of quarterback, and I think it's almost not comparable. I just think that Lagway is going to I think his ceiling is higher. No offense to Ethan, because Ethan, he had a great start to the season, and he's a great team player, and he's got all the tools, and he couldn't get drafted. So,
to me, you know who Ethan reminds me of? I know I gave him the Tua comp pretty much all offseason. But after 1 week, I think he kind of plays like how Justin Herbert plays.
Interesting.
I see it because he can be mobile, but like he's really more of a pocket passer, and he really felt comfortable moving around the pocket. I will say the biggest thing, whether the most impressive group that I saw on Thursday night against Ohio was 100% their offensive line. Even though they gave up a sack later on in the game, that offensive line, whether it was a 4th and 1, or 4th and 2, or a 4th and 3, they went 5 for 5 on 4th down, and that really happens just because of their offensive line. And I will say, Gus Zelinkas, he has the troops rallied, and I really like what this offensive line is going to be looking like for this year, because their offensive line and just overall their efficiency on 4th down is going to be important, especially due to they play against Ohio State and Penn State at the end of the year, and seeing how Ohio State was against Texas on 4th down, it's going to be a huge battle in the trenches coming in.
Yeah, Zelinskis is a worthy captain for sure.
Yeah, I think when I think of Ethan, if I had to compare him in terms of quarterbacks, I don't know if you all remember Jake Coker from Alabama.
Yeah, very vaguely, but yeah.
2015, and I think his ceiling is kind of like a Mac Jones. I think he's a great he has the potential to be a great pocket passer, read defense as well. But what I'm going to be looking for as the season progresses is how is he doing when he's under duress. What's his decision-making like? But I think he had a great start to the season.
Bad week to compare anyone to Bama, though.
What?
Bad week to compare people to Bama, though.
Yeah, I actually went to Alabama. I got a master's degree from Alabama, and I got to tell you, that performance was not Alabama. Nick Saban.
That's the new Alabama.
Yeah, that's the before Alabama.
Kellen DeBoer is a great coach, but the question is he a good fit for Alabama? He's got to change that culture. They've got to have that hunger and that toughness that they had, under Saban, because Florida State pushed them around, and it was really embarrassing.
Going back to last week, I think not last week. Our post-game reaction, Adam. I think that you said that you could quote run for 40 or 50 yards with this offensive line. Well,
referring to which one, Rutgers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So last week, the bright spot for Rutgers was, of course, Ethan, Antoine, CJ ran for 70 yards. But that offense, and the receivers, of course, DT, Ian, but that offensive line was fantastic. And that, when you win in the trenches, every single game comes down to the trenches. If you control the trenches, you're going to win the game. They controlled the trenches on offense, and those holes were so big, I could have run. I would have had like 8 carries for like 31 yards. I'm telling you. I would have broken down.
That's a first down. If you keep running at that pace, that's a first down every time.
Yeah, and I probably run
8 carries, 31 yards. That's near 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I would get hit and end up in the hospital. But that's another issue. So, all right, speaking of Rutgers, this brings us to our third segment. Now, I'll tell you this. The question is, as Rutgers prepares for the Miami Redhawks, who are 0-1, coming off a 17-0 loss to Wisconsin at Camp Randall I'm worried, and I'll tell you why I'm worried. I'm worried because of the defense, and I think Miami has last year Miami was 9-5. They were 7-1 in conference. Last year they beat Ohio 30-20, beat Colorado State 43-17. That 17-0 loss to Wisconsin tells me they've got a legitimate defense, but probably struggle on offense. But the way our defense played last week, if they do that again, they could be on upset alert. So I'm a little bit concerned. What do you guys think?
I feel confident that Rutgers is going to win this game. And honestly, I really feel like this game is going to be a blowout because, yes, their defense is good. They were able to stop a Wisconsin team, which for the most part was just not really executing that much for most parts of the game. I will say as well that their entire offense, the one that was a top 3 offense in the MAC, at that, nobody returned. So this is a completely new team, completely new offensive line, completely new quarterback, completely new skills. And this gives an opportunity, especially at home, for this Rutgers team to, especially on their defense, to get into their groove. Ohio was a perfect week 1 matchup for this team because Ohio still has a lot of their good players, and Ohio, for the most part, is one of the better Group of 5 teams, and out of the entire Group of 5, outside of, let's say, Boise State from last year, or you can include as well San Diego State or last year's UNLV onto that as well. You have to include Ohio in there because Ohio had one of the better quarterbacks in the Group of 5 in Parker Navarro, who started off on a very hot note as well. So any Ohio watchers looking at for our post-game recap, I will say that they have a very fun season in store for them as well. But for Miami of Ohio, it's a completely different situation. I can really see the front 7 being able to get to the quarterback, especially a quarterback that doesn't really, when he had the opportunity to run, he didn't go that far.
Yeah. My thing is, Parker Navarro, he's a good quarterback, but our whole defensive identity has really become the front 4. And not saying that we're not solid anywhere else, like in the secondary or our linebackers, but that's where the emphasis of the defense is. And we didn't get 1 sack, and we allowed Parker Navarro to run for 93 yards and a touchdown. And that was semi-expected, but I was saying I wanted him to not look like Lamar Jackson, and Jackson of Lamar is exactly who he looks like out there against us. And particularly in the passing game, because when you think of Lamar Jackson, you think of his running ability, obviously. There were scrambling quarterbacks before him, really good ones, Cam Newton, Michael Vick, but, Russell Wilson, but Colin Kaepernick. You think of Lamar Jackson as the guy that transformed how you play quarterback today. And Parker Navarro, in the same sense, kind of looked like that against us because he was able to throw the ball really well to receivers, none of whom had more than 26 receptions last year for no more than 2 touchdowns at most between all of them. And that brings me to DeQuan Finn.
Hold on a second. I got to offer my opinion here. I'm getting out here because you know what? I'm just kidding. But you say we made Parker Navarro look like Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
We made him look like Johnny Unitas. We made him look like Joe Montana. We made him look like
Steve Young.
Tom Brady, Steve Young. Yeah.
The thing is, Lamar Jackson's not too far off on that tier.
And I don't want to sound like I don't mean to sound skeptical. I love Rutgers football and 1,000% support them. But the bottom line is that there was an issue with consistency. 3 points by the offense in the second half. And the defense really was very inconsistent throughout. Now, you mentioned the defensive line, and we've been saying this on prior shows. The key to Rutgers' success this year on defense is to get pressure with 4. Why? You get pressure with 4, you can drop 7. But they weren't getting any pressure.
They couldn't get pressure with 4 or 5, which I will say is an issue.
Especially with Eric O'Neal being ranked top 100 in the nation as a player.
I think it's going to be closer than you guys think. But again, I think we'll come out with a win. But the question is, are we going to come out with a win that feels good rather than one that feels concerning?
This is going to be a better one. How do you guys feel about 7th-year quarterbacks, perchance?
At this point, you can't really have a negative feeling about them. They're not going away.
So the Miami quarterback is in his 7th year.
DeQuan Finn, and granted, he was injured his first 2 years. There was a COVID year, so mathematically it checks out. But like, if he gets injured this year, is he going to be an 8th-year quarterback next year?
Yeah, I've seen it before. I've seen 8th-year players before at different positions, and the funniest thing about that, the Quan Finn we played against in my first game at LIU when we played against Toledo, and that was back in 22. So it was very full circle.
He had 2023, not a bad year for him. 2022, a little too many turnovers, still not a bad year. 2021, he had a 9-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He has talent. It's just that he's coming into a new system. He played at Baylor last year, but as a backup, he only saw 43 attempts, completing 23 of them. And, Wisconsin's defense is solid. I think this is a bounce back week for us. I don't see how Schiano and company have another piss-poor defensive outing against a team that is worse than Ohio. And this should be a momentum changer. Like I've said, it's better to have frustrating wins than frustrating losses because you can learn from it with a smile instead of people trying to point fingers at what went wrong. You can own up to it. You can be like, that is my bad.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, remember that Miami lost to Wisconsin at Camp Randall 17-0. So that was no blowout. And they held the Wisconsin offense at Camp Randall at 17 points. Now, they didn't score any points, but our defense is not necessarily Wisconsin's defense. And one thing that really stuck out to me last week was this. 5 times Schiano went for it on 4th down, and he went for it, I think, from around the 40-yard line to seal the game. Does that tell me – it tells me one of two things. Either he has no respect for Ohio's defense or he doesn't trust our defense. And I think he doesn't trust our defense.
I will say as well, which might look into another red flag for me, not just for like right now in regards to when they play Miami, Ohio next week, or whenever they play Norfolk State 2 weeks down the line. Greg Schiano went 5 for 5 on 4th down, but he went 1 for 10 on 3rd. And when it comes to, now I'm just saying the next 2 games, but once conference play starts going on, when you have to play against defenses like Iowa, defenses like Penn State, defenses like Ohio State, in games that are most likely one of those games they going to have to win in order to either make it to a potential Big Ten championship or potentially turning a 7-win season into an 8 or 9-win season. Going from 7 wins to 9-10 wins, you have to be able to be efficient on 3rd down. And
that goes into recruiting too. I mean, that's what the high school players are looking at. That's what transfer portal players are looking at.
And Gabe, before you asked Donovan, you asked Donovan to compare Florida and Rutgers. So Donovan, I'm going to ask you this. How would you compare LIU to Rutgers?
LIU to Rutgers, do you want to include the players that used to be on our team that play for them now, or?
I mean, I have my guess is that you would feel like your team could be competitive with Rutgers.
I wouldn't say we would be competitive because, like, in general, I feel like I would be competitive with any team. There's no situation you could put us against Ohio State right now, and I'm gonna feel like we have a chance because you can't go into that mindset on the football field at all, or you're going to get hurt. To be completely honest,
right.
And I would say what differentiates us from just in general FCS to a team like Rutgers, which is on the way up in just Power 4. I would say it's just the players and just in general, just the way that their defense is honestly ran, especially with just how their secondary is. And games like these are very important for those type of secondaries, just to be able to feel dominant again, or be able to feel like they are better than their opponent again. And that's what I really feel what's going to happen against Miami of Ohio, because this is a perfect chance for this defense to see what Miami of Ohio put on tape against Wisconsin, which Quan Finn did not have a good game. He had multiple turnovers that game. And they're going to be licking their chops because they honestly can feel like this is the game that helps us get bounced back and get us back into the groove. This game, and especially the week after at Norfolk State, to get them in the groove for Iowa, Minnesota, playing against number 7 Oregon 4 weeks down the line. These are the type of games that help you build up.
Yeah. Good answer.
All right, so I got another segment here. It's still on the, it's still talking about the game, but I got a little over-under segment here. I got, I got 10 over-under things. And before we start, this has nothing to do with gambling. This is just asking yes or no questions of what we think could happen. So, for question number
for some
one.
people, it has to do with gambling. Don't be mean to them.
There's hotlines for that.
As an athlete, all I can say is gamble responsibly.
Yes, exactly. Or don't gamble at all.
Facts. Question number one. So certain betting websites have us favored by 14.5 points. Will we cover that?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I'm saying yes.
You don't see them winning by 14 or
No.
It would be over
14?
Basically, it would be like if we win by 14, they would cover because it's 14.5.
Oh, they have to win by 21?
They have to win by 15, 16, 17 plus whatever.
Oh, I can see that. 100%.
The
way that this offense played against an Ohio defense that still had a lot of their returners, and especially just how this is going to be a game where KJ Duff is most likely going to be the tallest player on the field. So I'm really can see this passing attack being able to go off.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of our defense looking iffy against Miami of Ohio. Is their offense good enough to take down any defense? And Wisconsin, I don't want to discredit their defense, but based on how Finn and company played, I mean, he played like Jets Zach Wilson out there. I don't see it happening. I don't see if we don't cover, it would be a really bad look for us moving forward.
You guys are very optimistic. Let's look at that for a second.
Do you believe in Mr. Coach Schiano to turn this team around? And he knows that we need to improve. He knows that wasn't our best performance.
I trust Schiano to turn the team around, absolutely. I don't think it's a matter of turning the team around, I would say. It's a matter of getting them to be more consistent. And what worries me, though, from that performance against Ohio is that at halftime and in the second half, we got worse. And, they obviously made some adjustments, but we got worse. And we have a schedule with Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Washington, Minnesota, Illinois. That's not going to cut it. And I'm not ready to say that we're going to beat Miami of Ohio by more than 14 based on what happened last week. Because last week we were favored by how much?
Same thing, 14.5.
Yeah, but it's possible. But I think I'm cautious right now about it.
Just seeing the difference in just how Miami, Ohio is compared to what University of Ohio has currently just on both phases of the ball. A lot of their team currently, if they played Miami, Ohio, let's say tomorrow, they would win by more than 14. Miami of Ohio has a big issue on offense, and I really don't see them being able to click it together against another defense that has a very strong pass rush. I would say potential of a very strong pass rush in the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, and part of the reason why it's 14.5 this week, too, is they pushed the goalpost back. If we played, say we covered the 14.5 last week, bookkeepers would have probably had this week being like 17.5, maybe 18.5. It's because we underwhelmed last week. That's the reason why it's down to 14.5. And I like that line. The next thing is, are we going to have over or under 47.5 total points between us and Miami of Ohio?
Under.
I also think under.
I say under. Just
pretty unanimous. I mean,
to get how the offense is.
Basically,
how they're going to be killing them on the ground.
Like, if Miami of Ohio scores 10 points, are we going to put up 38? If they score 17, are we going to put up 32? And I don't think they're going to put up more than 10 points, but I don't want them to score 24 on us and then all of a sudden I look like a jackass. So, like, what's it going to be? If they do score a lot, are we going to score more to match that total? I don't see it happening. Well, that's pretty unanimous then for that one. The next one is Eric O'Neal. He had 0 sacks last week. And I think the over-under was 1.5. And Adam, we might have both said over. Is he going to get his 2 sacks this week?
I can see it.
I can see it too.
100%, just due to playing with Eric. After any game that he has a bad, the following game after Eric has a bad game, he typically goes off. and that's just from personal experience. So that's why I'm going with that. I can see him getting 2 sacks.
I'm going to say under because since the over-under is 2, that would mean he'd have to have 2.5
Well, technically,
sacks.
the over/under is 1.5. I just said
1.5. Is he going to have 2 sacks?
Will he get 2
Oh,
sacks?
I thought. Okay, I was mistaken. Yeah, I'd go with the over on that one.
Yeah. So speaking of Eric O'Neal, does it like piss him off when he does bad? Like obviously it makes him frustrated. Does he get like angry?
Yes.
Kind of want to be a fly on the wall in that locker room after last week. I mean, look, they were all dancing. They were making TikToks and everything.
Yeah, a win is a win, but it's like if he did that and they lost, different type of error. But he's always going to be he's a really big time competitor, and that's why he wants to get better at every single situation. So if he doesn't do well one game, expect the next game he's going to go off.
Yeah, and forget about being a fly on the wall, Gabe. I don't want to be a fly on anybody's wall. I want Coach Schiano on the show. Coach, we've been inviting you left and right, and you keep giving us the boot. We love you, Coach. Come on, we got some questions for you. We're only asking for 10 or 15 minutes. And Ethan, same goes for you. We want to support you as you hopefully have a Heisman-worthy campaign this year.
So will Miami of Ohio, score over or under that 10.5?
Over.
I could see it being over just due to possibly a late score. One of those situations.
Well,
like I completely see the 2s for Rutgers coming into this game. I can see them scoring on their 2s.
Look, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, but I mean I believe that we will have a great game. I'm not saying we will though. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be the LSU players wearing the 1-0 on their shirt, even though they were right.
Or the quarterback from Florida State who was talking trash about Alabama all summer, and then he backs it up.
Yeah, Mr. Castellanos.
Tommy Castellanos. I just want to. I know this is a Rutgers primary show, but I just want to get into just in general for college football because I've been wanting to talk about this all weekend, from Saturday's game, especially Sunday's game yesterday between South Carolina and Virginia Tech, which despite the score was very exciting throughout all 4 quarters. The ACC looks like a very fun conference this year.
It could be, yeah.
A very fun conference. Not only just with how Florida State completely made a statement be known with how they completely just beat down on Alabama. It felt like a full-on beat down. I'm shocked that even Alabama was able to put up double digits on this Florida State team because they played so good on offense, which is Squirrel White as a wide receiver, the 2 running backs that they have, Tommy Castellanos being able to be just another. It felt like watching Kyler Murray again. Being able to just in a blink of an eye go from being in the pocket to just 20 yards down the field and just nobody near him. And then we have what Pitt did to Duquesne. They have a really fun offense.
It looks great.
SMU looked great. I will say as well, just even though Clemson lost to LSU, that LSU team has a very good defense. And I can truly believe after tonight's game with UNC, who is also an ACC team that I have my eye on, which is the return of Coach Bill Belichick. I can see LSU being a top 3 team at the end of Monday. But for ACC, just in general, Virginia Tech, I wanted to add in as well. Mm-hmm. They have a wide receiver core that looks scary with Donovan Green and Aiden Green. Kyron Drones looked really good yesterday, despite that red zone interception that he had in the first quarter. That defense held up with South Carolina for a long time throughout that game. There was pads clicking. And
by the way, with that LSU Clemson game, should have been 24-10 and not 17-10.
100%. LSU shot themselves in the foot, and they were still able to really shut down Cade Klubnik for most parts of that second half. And that's why Clemson's still in the running with this, because Cade Klubnik had a bad second half, but I don't see him doing that for the rest of the season. And then what Miami did yesterday, I just want to final off with this. I'm sorry for going on a little tangent.
No, you're good, man. We love college football here.
Mario Cristobal has this Miami team looking like one of his Oregon teams.
Yeah.
It felt like watching 2019 Oregon all over again. just with how Carson Beck, he had I would say he had a above average game despite only missing 10 passes, 205 yards. But Malachi Toney is a superstar in the making as a true freshman.
It looks like you lost Jason O on your Virginia Tech compliments.
I will say I'm just saying just in general, even though even late in that game, they let the game get away from them. They had Lenore Sellers in check from, I would say, after his first opening touchdown drive up to the beginning of that fourth quarter. They have a defense that's really, I would say, close knit with each other, and I'm just truly looking at Kyron Jones in his first year being healthy again. Last year was an off year because he was hurt for most parts of that season. Him with this wide receiving transfer duo of the Greens, who are not related, Donovan and Aiden Green. I'm excited to see how that looks because that looks like a very fun offense with the amount of ridiculous catches they were making on Sunday.
I mean, It really feels like, coming into week one, it was a 3-man race for the national championship this year. It was really,
and I didn't even get into Georgia Tech.
What's that?
I didn't even get into Georgia Tech and how good Haynes King still looks.
So it felt like coming into the week, it was Ohio State, Penn State, Texas. These are the three teams that have a chance to win the national championship this year, and everybody else is just the others. But after this week,
I would say it went from 3 to 7 in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean the two dark horses, in my opinion, the fan favorites are clearly LSU and Miami.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at this past weekend of college football, it shows you why college football is so amazing. The venues, the excitement, the games, it was an unbelievable weekend. But a few takeaways, I think, from it. Arch Manning, I don't know what he was doing. He was confused, obviously, by the defensive scheme at Ohio State, but he was throwing the ball. He was not accurate, almost sidearming the ball. He seemed very off. But I think, when I look at Ohio State and Texas, I don't tend to think that either of them are going to win the national championship. I think what I saw from LSU and Clemson, those two teams, to me, were the two best teams over the weekend. Those defenses are disciplined, and either team can beat the other. Now, Florida State, I think they'll be good, but I don't think they're going to contend for a national championship. Alabama, no,
they're out of the running. Alabama's out of the running.
I mean, Notre Dame did lose to Northern Illinois last year.
I will say Notre Dame did they did look good in that second half, so I can see them being still a favorite contender.
Yeah, I agree.
For Ohio State, their defense is going to be playing a heavy load this year just until Julian Sayin starts to feel more and more comfortable in this offense. They still did have a really good showing in the run game. There was this one clip that I saw of I think it was their left guard and their center on a inside double team block. Here we call it an A block, and they completely moved. They moved the guy vertically back 5-6 yards. And I think it was on a fourth. I think it was on a third down and 2 at that. So they have a lot of good aspects and just pieces to be a heavy favorite. I don't know about Texas though. I primarily don't have that much faith in Texas because I'm not saying because of Arch Manning. Arch Manning, outside of how ugly he did in that game on Saturday with the interception, a lot of those missed throws throughout the game, especially the gimme that he had on that drag route on that 4th and 2. Wingo was the most wide open Wingo looked that entire game. Yeah. He was somewhat open to begin that drive when they were back at their 5 or 6 yard line when they were backed up to start the drive, and they had him on a corner route.
I think your debut as the number one string quarterback, it's kind of tough to start off your collegiate career as a full-time starter going into Ohio State against a team that, to me, they remind me of the 2015 Broncos, with all due respect to Sayin. Until Sayin expands his role, that's what that team reminds me of, with the 41-year-old Peyton Manning. But he didn't have it, but obviously he's still one of the smartest quarterbacks of all time, and he played within the system. Sayin did a great job of playing within the system, and the rest of that team, it looks like that team led by Von Miller that won the Super Bowl against the Panthers. That's a tough way to debut your collegiate career as.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one thing that impressed me about Sayin was that he played very smart. He picked his spots, and when he did, he was successful. He didn't try to do too much, didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Arch Manning may have an amazing season. He's certainly an extraordinary talent, but it just seemed like, apart from the inaccuracies, it seemed like he was not reading the defense and did not recognize the coverages. And that, I think, is something that really needs to be worked on.
I like saying, and I'm just excited for the game this year because we're going to have another 4 years of two completely new quarterbacks for Bryce Underwood, who had a really good true freshman start against New Mexico, and now another true freshman, Julian saying. Those two colliding is going to be a sight to see, just especially if none of them leave for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very strong developed rivalry between those two quarterbacks. And going back to what I said about Texas, I don't know if it was really Arch Manning that was the big issue against Ohio State on Saturday, primarily because I didn't expect Ohio State's defense to be that good despite Jack Sawyer leaving, JT Tuimoloau leaving. And they still were able to, be completely stout on fourth down. They stopped Steve Sarkisian, I think, 4 times on fourth down that game. They still have a lot of that interior presence that they had to really shut down a lot of teams, Penn State included, last season. And Caleb Downs looked like the best defensive player in the country.
Yeah.
And
he was almost a household name.
If we're making, I would say, comparisons to NFL teams, their defense truly reminds me of, like, I would say the 2006 Colts. I know they don't have a superstar like Dwight Freeney or anything of that nature right now. Currently, they're still trying to figure out their pass rush. But the way that team was able to, I would say, work together so strongly around Caleb Downs reminds me of just how Bob Sanders was able to completely revitalize that team with his presence at that safety position.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, Donovan, which is one thing I noticed. It didn't seem like the Texas wideouts were incredibly
getting
fast.
open. They were getting shut down.
They were getting shut down. Yeah, so it's not all on Arch. And Jason raises a great point. Way too much pressure on Arch Manning. You know, he's a human being. He's allowed to have a bad game. Doesn't mean he's not going to have an amazing career, which he probably will. But I think that there were other factors that contributed to it. Namely, the Texas wideouts are not the wideouts of last year.
No.
And they're
not even the wideouts of 2 years ago. That era of Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, Xavier Worthy is behind us now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Jason also says Notre Dame is going to be tough. I agree with him. I think Notre Dame showed last night they could have won that game. And I thought, quite frankly, they were probably the better team. But
the difference was a car turnover, and we're not going to see too many car turnovers this year.
Yeah, so Notre Dame's still in it.
So
I will say my dark horse, since we got off track, and I just want to get this in because you brought up your dark horses like LSU and Clemson. I really feel like my dark horse in general, South Carolina, is especially just for the SEC. I was saying this all day that it was this conference this year is LSU's or South Carolina's to lose, just with just how good these two teams are offensively and defensively. LSU has one of the best offenses have one of the best defenses in the country. You can say the same about South Carolina. Dylan Stewart is going to be a first-team All-American at edge this year, and there's no way anybody convinced me otherwise. The way he was able to just completely just wreck a game in the second half against Virginia Tech. Yes, it was against Virginia Tech, but I can see that against other SEC teams. We saw it last year as well when he was a true freshman at that. Despite the shoulder injury that he had in the middle of the game, he still came back. He was able to get 2 sacks in the game since he came back. And one of them looked completely nasty on Kyron Drones. And I can really see either LSU, Lenore Sellers showed us a lot on Sunday as well, being a dual threat QB. And once he gets able to get into the flow of things, Nick Harbor is going to be a problem. Yeah. 6'6", can run like a gazelle. And you just can't stop it. He was a participant in the Olympic 200-meter trials. That's speed right there. And the thing about the SEC, the teams that have skilled players that have the most speed, we saw it last year. We saw it the years before, especially just with Texas the last couple of years, how many Xavier Worthy, Matthew Golden, both 4.2, 4.3, 40 runners. We've seen it with LSU when they had Neighbors and Brian Thomas. We saw it with Alabama when they had the Ferraris and Devontae Smith Henry Ruggs, Jerry Judy.
You can
Judy.
go over that Alabama.
If you
wide
have
receiver
Ferraris in the
roster.
garage for your offense, you're going to be very successful. And I truly see LSU and especially South Carolina having a load of Ferraris in the garage right now.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
go over
good
that
point.
2017 Alabama roster, they have like 10 wide receivers that turn into Pro Bowlers. Unbelievable. So do we want to go back to this over-under thing? I mean, this is all great talk. I still have a few more, though.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Great. Okay. I got the let's see. Oh, I'm up to all right. This is an interesting one to me. So Miami of Ohio had 117 total yards versus Wisconsin. Are they going to have over or under 165.5 against us?
Over.
I can see over primarily because they could do it against the second teamers.
Okay. Yes. What about over under? I'll go 75.5 yards first half then.
Over.
I can see over. If it was like entire game when it goes to just running the ball, if they have any sort of like running lines, I really see, especially Greg Schiano, he doesn't like giving up the run. And 200 yards on the ground against Ohio, this entire week they're planning to do one thing only, is to stop the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, especially after a bad Finn outing. I guess you don't want to focus too much on something that isn't working currently. So over or under 1.5 forced turnovers by this defense. I mean, we had a fumble, scoop, and score, no interceptions though.
Over.
You think over? Okay.
Is there any over unders for blocked punts?
Oh, we lead the nation in those since 2022.
I saw why last night. Oh no, on Thursday night, because that special teams that Rutgers has it's very important. When it's good, it's very important and very game changing. And that's honestly what kept that game out of reach for Ohio.
And you know what? That and the student section that forces a penalty and then a fourth down malfunction, I guess you could say. They were almost indirectly the reason we won that game.
Agreed.
Over under 2.5 Ethan Kaliakmanis touchdown passes.
Yes. Over. I can see him having 4 in the day.
I was thinking 4 too.
Under.
Adam, you're going Mr. Opposite here a lot.
I think he gets 2.
Okay.
Because I think we're going to focus a lot on the run, and I think that we're going to have some touchdowns out of Antoine Raymond and CJ. So I think it's going to be balanced. So it doesn't mean Ethan's going to have an underwhelming performance. It's just I think it's going to be a little bit more spread out.
I just feel the way that they're going to take advantage of the run, especially on their first couple of drives, the play action is going to be open, and DT Sheffield eats in play action.
Love DT.
DT's great. Duff, who I was saying CFB 26 disrespected by having him at a 77, and Ian Strong was at a 82, and I was like, these guys are almost one and the same in terms of how they play at wideout. That's a big 3. This is one that honestly, like, this is one of my rare nitpicks when it came to this offense. Are we going to have over or under 4.5 tight end completions?
Under.
Or receptions, I guess.
Under, because for the most part in this offense, Rutgers using tight ends to primarily just block.
No, yeah, it's true. It's just that, like, we're kind of promised this thing coming in with, like, Fletcher and Weber. Like, these are 2 guys that can catch the football, especially Weber.
You know why I think, here's my very simple, ignorant view of tight ends. The reason that tight ends don't get the ball a lot is very simple. Because they're too slow. They throw to wide receivers more. You rarely get like a Jeremy Shockey. You rarely get a tight end that really, runs a 4.5 and can really, get up. I think tight ends are mostly beneficial because of their blocking capabilities. But am I wrong, Donovan?
And I agree with you, and just like I wouldn't say it's rare to get a tight end like Jeremy Shockey, because we just saw Brock Bowers completely destroy everything in his path as a tight end, and I just don't see it with Rutgers, because I know Rubber can catch the ball, but they have that type of tight end body in a receiver right now with KJ Duff.
No, that's true. He is very. I don't want to shame him.
He's the guy that you would throw to over the middle typically as like a tight end would, because he has the size to be able to make those catches if they're contested and be able to hold on to the ball if he's getting hit.
Yeah.
He's the DK Juju type of build. So I respect that. Will Jai Patel make over or under 2.5 field goals and without missing?
Yeah, because he's the record holder. Because
Sir.
there's only two ways that this week 2 game against Miami, Ohio can happen. Jai Patel misses a field goal, it ends the streak, or the streak just completely is going to be continued until he hangs up the cleats.
Yeah.
What's Jai Patel's range?
See, that's a good question. I mean, he was technically the difference last week because we won by 3, and he made the last points. In terms of range, I'm not exactly sure. I know he's a sniper from 20 to 29.
I would say over, because I think the Miami defense is going to not shut down drives, but they're going to hold them in the red zone a few times.
Yeah, I concur with that. And this one is, I guess, a little comedic. Will 7th-year quarterback Daquan Finn throw for a touchdown pass in the first 3 quarters?
I can see it. I can see it. Just primarily just due to how the secondary is going to try to deal with Daquan Finn, especially since he's going to try to be mobile. And we just saw what they did with Parker Navarro, even though they are 2 completely different QBs. I can still see a potential touchdown to a tight end because since we're on the tight end topic, Rutgers needs to figure out how to defend against tight ends because those were the touchdown scorers last week.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is he had 12 attempts for 13 yards last week, so he got stopped. They figured out how to contain him.
I think he gets 1 touchdown pass in the first 3 quarters, but I'm not sure he gets any more than that.
You don't think he gets a last-second 50-yard bomb that we're kind of blown coverage on because we're like done with the day?
I will explain with my score prediction.
Okay, well, that's all I have for the over-unders, so go right ahead.
So let's go for our score predictions. Gabe, since you did the over-under, why don't you start us off with your score prediction, which I am suspecting might be very accurate.
I think I'm going to go – I'm saying we're going to maintain the 34 and allow 10.
All right. I think that I think it's going to be 34-7. I don't
Very
see
similar.
I don't see them scoring 10. I just don't see Rutgers running up the score that much. Primarily, I feel like they're going to end the day a little bit early for this team once they recognize that it's very much out of reach.
Yeah. And also, my thing is with the 10, I don't know if Miami of Ohio will ever go for a field goal. They might just go for it on 4th down once it gets to a point in the game. But if they make a field goal, it'll be in the first drive or 2. That's why I think, they'll have 1 or 2 good offensive runs and they'll settle for a field goal. If they don't score 3 after the first quarter, they're not scoring 3 in quarters 2 through 4.
I'm going to say Rutgers 27, Miami 13.
Yeah, Jason, we remember your score prediction last week.
It's going to be a little bit close in the first half, but Rutgers is going to pull away at the second half.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
27-13, that's very accurate with your Miami of Ohio covering the 14.5 because you have it at 14 even.
I have it at 14, yeah. Rutgers wins the game, but I think it's not going to be uncomfortably close, but it's going to be competitive for probably 2.5 quarters.
And Jason O here, who says no more score predictions from me. I think last week he said 41-10 or something, Rutgers, or something like that. I mean, it looked like it after the first half. We were up 31-10 at one point, or 31.
Yeah, Jason, you were right for a half, so don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that what we have here lives up to the truth.
Absolutely, guys. And great show and great analysis. So any final thoughts before we head to this week's game? And for everyone who's watching, we will be having a post-game show immediately after the game ends on Saturday. So stay tuned for that, the analysis that follows. Any final thoughts?
Donovan, who are you guys facing week 2?
We play another Max. Since we're talking about Max schools, we play another Max school at Eastern Michigan. I'm excited to play against them. the team that, if you've been on the internet, the most
Yeah.
popular name in the universe right now.
Yeah.
Noah, the linebacker, plays on. So I'm excited. I'm excited
Is
to
it
be in
home?
another FBS situation. And the mindset this week is this game is 100% within our grasp, because there's not that much of a talent gap between the NEC and the MAC.
I think you guys
Right.
can take that. And also, isn't Noah, he's like in the back of their rotation, isn't he? Like right now?
I honestly don't know. It's going to come down to when we see the 2 deep later on this week.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys can take that.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's home or away?
It's away. We're going them 7 p.m. on Saturday.
Nice. And before this past season, the only guy anyone ever heard of up there was Max Crosby.
Yeah, the great Max Crosby, which my former offensive line coach James O'Hagan, he currently is the coach at Buffalo. At Maine. He played at Buffalo during the time Max Crosby was there, and he's told me endless stories about just how him before the character arc where he just became a new sober person.
Yeah.
Back in the days, he was 10 times as ruthless.
Oh my God. And he's scary now. I mean, top 5 defensive end, however you have him in that, not my business, but he's easily top 5. That's scary. But yeah, I think you guys got it. And my final message is, Rutgers, let's beat the brakes off of Miami of Ohio. No more close games against teams that you should be winning by multiple touchdowns.
Yeah, and I guess my final message would be very simple. Keep chopping. You have the talent and the potential. You got to put it all together, and you can do that, because in a few weeks, the Hawkeyes come to town, and that's the game where you got to get over the hump, not have another Nebraska like last year. Get over the hump, go 4-0. Build that confidence, and really have a great year in the Big Ten. So we'll see. It's going to be an exciting season. And as always, Donovan, it's fantastic having you on the show. We hope you can come on every week. Your analysis is great, and we really appreciate how much you add to the show. And as
Thank
always,
y'all for having me. I love being on the show with y'all, and just hopefully the more open the schedule comes, the more shows I get to be a part of Mondays.
Well, it's not having you anymore. It's joining us, because you are a third of this show.
Absolutely. And great show, guys. And I hope if whoever's watching, if you like the show, hit that like and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back here on Saturday immediately following the game for analysis, and we're going to be taking your calls and getting your thoughts on what the game and how Rutgers played. So we hope to see you all on Saturday, and thank you for being here today. Go Scarlet Knights. We'll see you soon.
Adios, people.